For many centuries, French has been the language of culture and erudition, but it's now the sixth most spoken language in the world, Mandarin being the first. So what place does French have in our future? A study by investment bank Natixis says French will be the most spoken language in the world by 2050. The prediction stems from the large francophone population, particularly sub-Saharan Africa, one of the fastest growing regions of the world. Dr. Julie Robert is the French language program coordinator at UTS and agrees with the study.
These studies have been done largely based on the proportion of francophones that are in Africa. So French speakers, not native necessarily French speakers, but people who do speak French and who use French as a language of professional and social interaction. And given that birth rates have declined in much of the Western world, but birth rates are still quite high in Africa, where there are a significant portion of francophones, that's where the projections of French becoming one of the fastest growing languages.
She also says it's because French is spread out across the world.
French is one of the most global languages other than English. There are a lot of Spanish speakers, for instance, but they're largely concentrated either in Spain or in the Americas, whereas French is on every continent.
Although Dr. Robert says there hasn't been a rise in French enrolments, it still remains one of the popular language choices at the university.
For students looking for an elective, it's a very popular choice because French is still taught in most of the high schools in New South Wales, whereas Japanese, Spanish, Mandarin, German, even Italian aren't necessarily taught. So some people already have some experience, some familiarity with it, and that certainly helps with our elective enrollments. There's also just the idea that people want to study French. It's a known language, and people do think that it is useful in the sense of being able to travel with it if you want to work in government or particularly international governance. People still know that it is a very useful language in that sense.
Tara is studying writing at UTS, but has continued to learn French as well. For her, choosing French in Year 7 was a practical decision.
Well, I like to travel as well, and I think a lot of the places that I've been looking at, they actually speak French. It's always a nice surprise when that happens, so you're not someone who's going over there who can't speak the language at all.
Learning French has also helped her with her English.
I just think French is a really nice language to learn, and it's cool seeing it because when you learn like English words and you see how it overlaps kind of, it's like the French words and the English words, because obviously English comes from French.
Despite French's popularity at university, there are criticisms to the prediction. Forbes questions its methodology, as the study counts countries where French is an official language, but may not necessarily be spoken. Language development expert Marie Menadis agrees the study isn't reliable.
The study that was done here, obviously they looked at the numbers of people in sub-Saharan Africa where it has French as an official language. But I don't know the extent to which people actually use that official language. So it might mean that they have to do everything in two languages, but I don't know whether people use it in that way.
And as for her prediction, Ms. Menadis says it all depends on power and politics.
I think you're looking at least 2 decades to maybe detect a trend. But where that trend will go and where the power of, balance of power will go is hard to say. And yet, I guess part of my theoretical background is believing that things prevail. The world system tends to prevail and persist. So, it's likely that America and Europe will remain quite strong forces in that sense.